This is a resort that offers childcare facilities, babysitting facilities. Why then were the 3 young children left alone in the apartment while you were having a meal?
That's a perfectly valid question to ask to 2 parents who broke the law in Portugal by leaving 3 small children unattended. That is an illegal crime in the United Kingdom and also in Portugal. That's a very good question to ask. Why did they leave those 3 children alone in an apartment, unattended, when they could afford the babysitting services that the resort offered? I am not going to do this video to trash or say anything or criticize. I'm just gonna, as a mother, and many of you watching are parents, grandparents, uncles and aunts, friends with children. The law in the United Kingdom is very specific. No children under the age of 13 are to be left unattended. Otherwise, it's a criminal. That's a crime in the United Kingdom. And at the very least, the McCanns should have been prosecuted for that. And the twins should have been taken from them or placed in somebody else's care. Because to this day, they have never admitted any wrongdoing or any responsibility for the fact that they did commit that crime. And what's even more incredible is that the UK police, they failed. And what I believe is that they have failed Madeleine by not seeking justice for her and following the proper police procedures. I was shocked the other day when I watched the behavior panel analyze one interview that the McCanns did. And they are like, they go completely against everything that they have been preaching in their channel, because usually they say that there's a red flag. That's the words that they use. That there's a red flag when somebody calls and tries to frame what happened, because then they want a narrative to be followed to divert attention from the real crime. That's exactly what Kate McCann did that night. She waited over 40 minutes to contact the police. And when she did, she said that her daughter had been kidnapped, just like John Benet. Therefore, when the police came, and then she proceeded to contact the newspaper's reporter. She started working on her PR and her husband's PR way before the police got there. So the police wasted time treating that as a kidnapping rather than investigating it for what it was, because time is precious when it's kidnapping. How people, I don't know if you know, I've been in Europe, but you can actually drive and you can freely move in Europe, cross borders in Europe. So time was of the essence, because the police had been told that the child had been kidnapped. And they wasted precious time trying to locate that child. I am going to speak to you, and I'm going to pose questions for you to answer, and please leave me your comments about that, because it is rather sad what happened to this little girl. There has been negligence from her parents and from the UK police department. All of them have failed Madeleine McCann.
How can you explain the coincidence of the scent of the cadaver felt by British and not Portuguese dogs?
Sandra, maybe you should be asking the judiciary
for that.
Ask the dogs, Sandra.
Ask the dogs, no, Jerry. Now I think that I feel free to ask you. Don't you feel free to answer me?
May 3rd, 2007. If you go to Portugal and ask, in Praia da Luz, and you ask how many kidnappings there have been, they will tell you that there's only been one, and that's Madeleine McCann. And they don't believe it was a kidnapping. That's the only one. And we just heard right here, this is from an interview that Kate and the McCanns did. When they're asked, after the dogs were brought in by the UK, by the way, guys, the dogs were brought in by the UK police. They're top notch, to the point that these dogs are now working for the FBI, and the person who trained these dogs is a world-renowned trainer of these kind of methods that are so infallible. Okay, so this is Jerry McCann. Oh, ask the dogs. He's talking about his little girl being taken, and he's joking to ask the dogs. And then he proceeds to discredit the dogs, which were not brought on by the police, Portugal police. It was brought on by Scotland Yard or the Met Police in the United Kingdom. This starts, as I said, on May 3rd, 2007. And there's a lot of debate whether Madeleine McCann actually disappeared on May 3rd or maybe the day before, because there are no pictures. Nobody remembers having that little girl from May 2nd. Nobody remembers seeing her from that date. There's a lot of debate about that, but I don't want to get into that. What I want to get from this, forget that she wasn't seen. When was the last time she was seen? Forget about that. That's something for the police to do. What I want to concentrate here is the fact that these two parents who had the means to ensure that their children were well taken care of so they could enjoy their night out, decided not to do that. And from what we have learned, the neighbors on top on the building said that they would hear Madeleine McCann cry, asking them why she had to leave them, why they had to be left there on their own, that she was scared. They would hear her cry at night. And Kate and Jerry McCann were told that, because they have said so in many interviews they have given. So they knew prior to May 3rd, 2007, that Madeleine, a 3-year-old little girl, was waking up, crying, looking for her parents. And they still chose to break the law. And I'm using this because this is a fact. In the United Kingdom, if you're a parent and you leave a child under the age of 13 unattended, you go to jail. I've seen it happen. There's loads of articles from people or women who have done that, and they end up in jail. Except the McCanns. I don't know why. But they chose, and this was a conscious choice that they made, to leave their 3 small children alone in an apartment. They claim that every half hour they were checking in on the children, but that has been hotly disputed. But that's not the point. It takes 2 minutes for somebody to take your child away, or that child to wake up and try to go look for her parents. They have also claimed that the Tapas bar was like being in the backyard of your house. I can tell you as a parent, I don't know about you, but I had it one of those walkie things that you put and you listen to listen to your children, and they're in the other room, and yet you have those things to listen to them, to see if there's anything wrong inside your home. And they don't have that. First they said that they left the door shut, and then they said no, the door had been left open. They said that somebody chimneyed the windows and they got through the window. And now it's been proven that that's not the case, that the windows, nobody went in and out through those windows. They have changed so many versions of this very sad story. The McCanns have also claimed that, as I said, they were close by. It was like being in the backyard. And again, I just told you, we as parents, they have with walkie-talkies that we listen to our children in our own home. It was not that close. It was a very good 5-minute walk, because you had to get out of the apartment, walk down. Yes, if you went through the walls, through the pool, then you could see the Tapas bar. But in order to get there, to walk there, you had to go around, which was a good 5-minute walk. That's not like being in your backyard. In your backyard, you're like less than 10 seconds out. And again, You always have a walkie-talkie because you have that instinct of protection. So the police, to me, there's red flag number one. Another thing that Kate McCanns said is that when she got to the apartment and she discovered that Madeleine had been kidnapped, she left her two boys, smaller, younger children, less than 2 years old, in the apartment and ran outside. And as I already told you, it's about 5 minutes with a brisk walk because you have to go around stuff to call for help. Instead of calling for help there and making sure, because she doesn't know if indeed she believes that the children have been kidnapped, why run outside and leave? Did she want the kidnapper to come and finish the job? I mean, that's the only thing, because there's no way in hell me. And when I'm narrating things to you, please think of yourselves as yourself in that situation. For me, there's no way nobody would have been able to pry me out of that apartment, leaving my two children. If anything, I would have grabbed my two other children. I would have run out with them outside asking for help. I would have never left them there on their own. So to me, it indicates that the reason why she did it is because she knew there was no kidnapping. She knew that there was nothing to be concerned about because she knew what had happened to Madeleine. And it wasn't a kidnapping. That's the only way as a parent I would leave my two children if I think that they're not in danger. But if, as she says, the child was kidnapped, why risk leaving the other two children behind? After all is said and done, we know that they have lied about the whole thing. They lied about, first they said it was through the doors, then it was through the windows. They contacted the press before they contacted the police. They didn't follow the police request when the police told them not to disclose that Madeleine had a very distinctive eye, feature, because that makes kidnappers panic. Because then people look for that feature, and if they see the child with that feature, they're easily identifiable. They did everything that they were not supposed to do as parents who just lost a child. Fine. The first rule of everything when there's a child goes missing is, I think it's like is in their high 80%, that is usually somebody the child knows who kidnaps the child or takes the child. And therefore it's imperative that the parents are ruled out, or the friends of the parents, people who are in close proximity with the children. Yet Scotland Yard, or the Met Police in the United Kingdom, gave instructions that the McCanns were not to be investigated, in spite that the narrative, that the story they told the police was proven to be a lie, because they switched that narrative over and over. And yes, we have the dogs. The dogs indicated in 2 or 3 places in the apartment death of Madeleine, because they gave them something to sniff from Madeleine. And by the way, Kate, you know that cuddly toy? Maddie likes to go with the cuddly toy. She washed it off. She washed it, so her scent would disappear. I don't know about you, but if my child has been kidnapped, I wouldn't wash that, anything. And then they failed to cooperate with the police, that they would never leave. But as soon as they were made arguidos, which is suspects, they took off. There's one thing that I've heard a lot of these YouTube channels and stuff talk about it, but it's only a couple that I've heard mention this, that later when the dogs came, because the Met Police brought the dogs afterwards, weeks after, they smelled. They sensed the smell of a dead body, Madeleine's dead body, in the trunk of their car, of their rental car. And Apparently, the cell phone of Jerry McCann pinged about 40 kilometers outside of Praia da Luz, and then it went silent. Nobody has focused on that ping from the cell phone. I've heard 2 or 3 channels talk about it. Madeleine McCann has been gone. Why is she still gone? And her parents have engaged in a worldwide celebrity tour, raising funds to fight lawsuits for people who are calling them out because the police fails to do that. Never in the history of any child being missing, so much money has been spent in looking for a little girl. And at the same time, such blatant disregard for police procedure has occurred here, that even policemen have said, who worked in Scotland Yard when they were assigned to investigate the Madeleine McCann disappearance, that they are ordered not to investigate the parents. And the parents themselves have monetized this. There's no grief. Jerry McCann has been laughing their heads off. They threaten anybody who dares point something out. That's actually logical. They have Gonçalo Amaral from Portugal, who's written books and said that he thinks that the McCanns did it. Do I think they did it? Yeah. That's my personal view. We have the book that Kate McCann wrote. In that book, she describes having been invited to dinner after her daughter disappeared, about 8 or 9 days after her daughter disappeared, right? By this expat. Expat is a person who's a foreigner living in a different country, in a country. So this expat invited her to have this dinner. And in this book, she writes, she remembers how exquisite the dinner was. Oh, the drinks. I mean, as a parent, 8 or 9 days after my child has been kidnapped or missing, you can't even eat, let alone enjoy a culinary experience, a cuisine, something that's beyond me. She describes her daughter's intimate parts in a way that makes you rise, I don't even know how to describe that, guys. Would you have left your child alone like that? Do you believe it's fair that the police have disregarded every police procedure? Now, as I said, I'm baffled by the behavior panel, that they were justifying, oh yeah, she looked like she was grieving. And they don't touch the framing that Kate McCann did, framing the situation so that Portuguese police wasted time that was needed in actually investigating what had happened. Why do you think that the McCanns were not even charged with neglect back in the United Kingdom? Why do you think that, in my very humble opinion, the entire UK system has let down Madeleine McCann? Why, you know what, even in this channel, I can't say very much because they're so litigious. And YouTube and the entire press bans everything that has to do with the McCanns that does not follow their narrative. Why are they so aggressive? Why are they refusing to answer questions? Why are other channels that usually condemn if there were any other suspect, they would be condemning, saying, oh, they framed this, she did that. But now they are helping them also. Like I said in the behavior panel, please go watch I'm not gonna put the link here because but if you feel like it, you'd be surprised, because if you watch them, they tell you very, very many times that one of their main red flags is when people call, that the 911 call is very important because it will tell you if the person is involved or not, because they try to frame something. Kate McCann didn't think, oh, maybe my daughter woke up and wandered off because she had done it before. No, she framed it as a kidnapping. Again, it made, and they ruined they had a bunch of people trampling all over the crime scene. And they made the Portuguese police waste 24 hours, if not more. And what's incredible is they didn't even join the search party for their own daughter. They didn't. Oh no, there's people looking for them. So all I'm gonna ask you here is, would you have reacted that way? And I know people react differently, but there's one common thing. As a parent, when your child is missing, you can't sleep because you're not at peace. You don't know what's happened. You're anguished. You don't get invited to dinners and then you write in a book that culinary experience that you had, how wonderful the risotto was, because she goes into great detail about the risotto, but she doesn't talk about her daughter. How they started raising funds immediately. It was a fundraiser for them that they have been using to hire shady people to try and fulfill their narrative, but the narrative falls apart each and every time. Do you think that Madeleine died like Gonzalo, the Portuguese policeman said, died in that apartment, and out of fear that the two children would be taken away, they hid it? But what's incredible to me is, again, the UK police has allowed this to continue to this day because they had this German guy up in prison. But nothing here seems to be. Is it because some people have said he's a Freemason? He's a Freemason, and he's well connected because each and every prime minister in the United Kingdom has given exactly the same order. Don't investigate the McCanns. No matter what the evidence says, do not investigate them. And instead, they give huge amounts of funds for a little girl that, in my very humble opinion, is no longer around. Why do you think the McCanns did it if they did it? Why do you think they covered up? Why do you think they're still raising funds for that? Do you think they will ever admit if they did it? Do you think that this will ever be solved? Or do you think that if the police finally in the United Kingdom follow police procedures to investigating a crime, that they will find out who did it? Please let me know what you think.